You know, I would have my pops link your pops, but guess what?
You don't have a pops.
Do you love the way I do when I'm loving your body? When I'm loving your body, loving your body.
Recently on stream, we watched the latest Helluva boss mission Orphan Time, and to put it bluntly, the episode ultimately showcases Blitzos' evident hypocrisy, ridiculousness, and contradictions from his last episode's stance. For starters, the episode's premise openly showcases a contradiction within Blitzos' previous stances, by having him be desperate to kill an innocent orphanage owner, with the excuse in this scenario being that it's simply a hit a client ordered.
I just thought he would be really easy to kill, you know?
Despite whilst not allowing that same excuse fly when asked by another client to kill an actually guilty husband cheater who quite literally stripped her side of the family from ever seeing her daughters again, as showcased by none of the mom's side of the family surrounding themselves with their nieces or granddaughters on a holiday like Christmas of all things, aka a holiday meant to celebrate family bond and unity, with it then ending off with the supposed BS defense for Blitzo copping out being that the husband quote-unquote changed, despite not acknowledging the supposed change in any of the other quote-unquote victims he was ordered to kill, and perfectly killing them in cold blood despite the reasons that they were ordered to be killed by Blitzo being things that they had either done years before, such as Blitzo wanting to kill a 20-year-old in cold blood for something cringy she did as a 13-year-old, aka 7 years ago, and also as a minor, and only deciding to go on his monologue about what she did being years ago after his quick, cold-blooded attempt to kill Emberlyn failed due to her conveniently wearing a protected gem that shielded her from Blitzo's attacks. Had Emberlyn's shield not protected her from the initial backstab, you would have had no remorse in this exact crime. Your initial attempt, you were actively gloating about how easy of a kill this is and singing rhymes.
I love killing, shooting things. I'll use a saw, I'll use a fork, knife, and I'll kill someone. And today it's just me, the stupid bitch.
And even gloating to Millie on the phone about it.
Oh, thanks, Mills, but I don't think I need backup to take down some suburban college girl.
You're only switching up and trying to seem noble in an attempt to get Emberlyn to willingly take off her necklace so you can then kill her and get paid for this exact hit. To you, Emberlyn doing this mistake 7 years ago and as a 13-year-old minor does not matter to you, because if that truly did matter and you were willing to acknowledge that, you would have not done this hit to begin with and would have turned down the client's reasoning for having her killed. You would have said to the client, I'm not gonna kill this person for something they did forever ago and as a minor, get lost. Again, your definition of whether it's right or wrong only matters to you if the person that you're targeting personally has an agenda or personal likelihood that you can relate to or are biased toward. That's why you're willing to kill Martha in front of her own damn kids, despite her being willingly injured and innocent. Not only did Martha not know the husband she was screwing was actually married, but Martha was in an open relationship, meaning her husband was okay with what she was doing, and ultimately that's the husband's choice. If the family is in an open relationship, then Martha is not guilty of doing anything. She is by practicality a victim of wrongful circumstances. Not to mention when the other members of the family who were of course not guilty of doing anything and of course wanted to rightfully have you killed, because who wouldn't want to do that after you just fired an assassin's bullet at them and missed when they were wrongfully killed by an accidental phone call by Moxie? Did Blitzo ever feel bad about the other members of the family, including literal children, being killed accidentally? No, he and the rest of the group literally celebrated the wrongful killings of other family members and threw a party gloating about their wrongful deaths. Ultimately, everything that I basically said within my Sinsbis episode, so again, it's blatantly biased as fuck. Like, bro, Blitzo has had no issue killing other people for less shittier transgressions. He had no issue killing the weeaboo girl as a 20-year-old for something cringy she did on the internet as a 13-year-old. You are deliberately doing this because you're biased as fuck and are setting standards for this couple that you would never for anybody else. You had no problem killing that woman in front of her kids. Not to mention that woman was still injured. This man has had no injuries. He's completely unscathed. This woman has had bandages over her head and was a victim of assault. But you didn't care. You killed her without a second thought because you're an unjust, double standard motherfucker. Basically holds up in regards to this short. And let me just say that once again, this is another example of Blitzo killing someone for something terrible they did as a literal minor, aka a child, because the original hit was called for this guy in high school, aka a relationship he would have had as a literal minor. Once again, this is another example of Blitzo disregarding that not only was it forever ago, but it was also when the victim in question was a literal minor. Blitzo has openly proved that at the end of the day, it's not about what someone's transgressions are, if whether or not someone's changed or still a shitty person, or if they're actually guilty or not. It's solely about whether or not to him are they personally relatable towards his own personality or personal agenda that he has. To further add on to Blitzo's lack of actual consistency and consistent conviction, when Blitzo saw the tragic stray of emotions from this infidel cheater and his family within the Spongebobs episode, this is what causes Blitzo to have a change of heart, as he did not want to break up an emotionally dependent and filled with love family. So with that in mind, he must have had a change of heart when he saw the orphanage caretaker having to say goodbye towards every single one of his orphans that he's adopted and taken care of, with their rampant tears of sadness falling across their face, begging for him to not go to the afterlife. Surely he must have seen that emotional, tragic family overload and had to have changed his mind, right?
Alright, I'm not buying it. There's no way this many women drop their panties for the guy who teaches the ABCs to puppets.
Oh, right, I forgot. The tears of emotional sadness from these people do not matter because they are not homosexual, aka not a person or identity or agenda that you truly care for. We then get an evident narcissism moment from Blitzo himself.
And then we can have the whole rest of the day for daddy-daughter time.
If you're going to say this, Blitzo, then this line of logic should apply to this Wiggler man himself. Why should he not get the ability to rightfully say his goodbyes towards loved ones and individuals he cares about before he has to face the inevitable penalty of death that he does not at all deserve, as his literal crimes in this instance are pissing off a past woman back when they were in high school, you know, as in being when they were minors? So this dude who takes care of orphans deserves death for something that he did years ago and as a literal child? You know, I would say that people on death row are treated better than this man's final hours alive. I initially meant that as a joke, but then after thinking about it, I then realized, wait, that's correct. Not only do victims on death row get the ability to say goodbye to their own family and victim's family that they hurt, but they also additionally get a last meal of their own personal choice before the execution begins, something that this guy did not have the privilege of doing. Funny how that works. The next scene that comes on, like, I don't even know how to describe it. You know what? I'll just play the clip.
Alright, I'm not buying it. There's no way this many women drop their panties for the guy who teaches the ABCs to puppets.
Gee, Blitzo, it's almost like he utilized the concept of adoption, something that you yourself have actively done in the past. Again, writers, I know you guys like to pull the Blitzo is an idiot trope, but again, he's not that stupid. He's not gonna forget the process of how he literally became a father-in-law towards his own daughter, who is literally 10 feet from him. Unless Blitzo has some magical dementia, which again, clearly is not the case, as he wouldn't be able to remember the insane amount of family members that this dude was tied to by in-law family bond and said his goodbyes to. So again, writers, you tried to fool people, but your sloppy writing here was the only joke in this room. Also, it's ridiculous to act like Blitzo somehow forgets the concept of being an acquaintance towards someone when he himself would know that exact concept, considering he has Octavia's phone number saved to his personal contacts, showcasing that he obviously had a connection with Octavia that wasn't family related but was acquaintance established. So again, writers, you tried to fool people, but your writing here was the only joke again in this room. Ultimately, again, when it comes to the talk between Blitzo and this orphanage caretaker, you could basically sum this up to essentially, had Mr. Wiggler in question replaced the words she and her when talking about his partner with he, him, Blitzo would have instead changed his mind and actually gave a shit about taking him seriously and the intimate bond properly.
No, No, I've been happily married for 74 years to my very first sweetheart. And I exclusively and regularly perform oral sex on her. She gets more pleasure that way, and so I much prefer it to intercourse.
But again, because it's a woman, Blitzo of course has no empathy because he's straight. He doesn't care. It's not about who they are and their transgressions. It's about whether or not they personally serve his own agenda. So again, he doesn't care if this dude's only transgression was back when they were in high school. The only thing he cares about is, does this person have a personal agenda that I can relate to? Which of course is showcased by, after rightfully being schooled by the owner after mentioning the concept of adoption, the very thing he was able to gain ownership of Luna for, does Blitzo correct himself? Does he acknowledge he's wrong? Does he apologize for jumping to conclusions about a random individual he has no knowledge of? No, he instead makes a discussion about himself.
Well, isn't that just fucking great? We wasted the whole damn day on this.
Ah yes, Blitzo, because when proven wrong by an innocent man, change the topic to ensure that it revolves around yourself. Totally not a narcissistic and self-centered thing to do. Because at the end of the day, what you currently feel right now totally matters, and not the man who is about to be executed by the end of the sunset today. Now, excusing the fact that for some reason when he proceeded to say goodbye towards every single family and orphan, and especially told them that today is his last day alive, when surrounded by two strangers, neither of these people for some reason not only contacted law enforcement to protect him from these two suspicious individuals, but also for some reason didn't try to stop these two individuals from conducting their execution. But that aside, we then move on to the, of course, sunset scene, and again, it's essentially just a bar-for-bar ripoff from literally Spongebob's Dying for Pie episode that did this concept. But again, the writers failed to realize why the Dying for Pie concept here doesn't work in this scenario. The reason why it worked in SpongeBob is because before the sunset scene comes to a close, we as the viewers think that this is SpongeBob's truly last moments alive without him even knowing, and thus makes Squidward seem more like a terrible person, as not only is SpongeBob going to die to a fate due to someone else's incompetence, but additionally, he doesn't know that he's going to die and instead remains oblivious only until the split second of when it's far too late to realize. In the Orphan episode, this Dying for Pie sunset concept doesn't work here because again, the key factor is that the victim who is going to be killed in question already knows that they are going to be killed, thus making the point of this sunset scene pointless, as again, we don't feel a strong emotion of upset because the victim in question actively is complying with the idea of having his existence terminated. This would be like in Dying for Pie if Squidward had just told SpongeBob that today was his last day alive, and SpongeBob didn't respond and just said, "Alright, that's cool with me," towards Squidward. If that had happened, that would completely ruin the build-up towards SpongeBob's last moments alive before the initially thought Dying for Pie explosion would have taken place. You just don't do it because it doesn't generate an unequivocal upset towards the opposing figures and their actions. Additionally, unlike the Dying for Pie episode where Squidward's incompetence is what causes SpongeBob to have thought to have passed away, in this episode, on the other hand, it's blatantly aware that from a malicious intent, they actively wanted to have this guy killed solely for their own career-boosting desires. Ultimately, all this basically comes off is to basically a cheap and lazy copying of other media's ideas and concepts that have been done in a much more productive and better way. And again, when you're stealing concepts from a kid's show and still manage to fumble it, which again, this isn't even the first time Vivziepops done this, as she's done this for other episodes, with the underlying joke being that the main character thinks that it's never the creepy guy and that it must be someone else.
Hey, Mops! Check out that shady-looking fella over there. I think that's our guy.
Millie, I hardly think pointing out the first guy you see is the proper way to conduct an...
Rat traps! Really thought I was onto something.
Nah, I know this is gonna sound crazy. What about the conductor?
No, it's definitely not him.
Oh, why not?
Because he's weird and creepy. And you never suspect the creepy guy because it's too obvious.
Whatever, man. I'm gonna go sit and look at the schedule.
Only to then eventually come to the rightful notion that yes, it was the creepy guy all along.
Sir, that guy
guy's the target. He killed our client, and now our client wants to kill him back.
You fucking what?
He found out about your drugs. No one was the murderer?
The conductor's still on the train.
Oh yeah, he did it.
Yeah, you did it. You solved it, Finn.
I know. You knew he was the murderer all along.
Thank you.
We make a great team, pal.
Again, this is literally one of the most clichéest, overplayed tropes I have ever seen in media out there. Like, this is unbelievable. How in the world does a show like Adventure Time, a Cartoon Network show meant for children, elementary and middle school, manage to handle the concept of a bait-and-switch theme in a more cohesive and actually plot suspense-driven way? Unbelievable. It's very likely a sign that you should probably stop doing that, and instead of being the kid that copies off of the person sitting next to you on the exams, maybe you should instead read the questions and try to answer them independently for yourself for once. Anyways, a fumbled, heartwarming sunset talk later.
You know who I am, and I know someday you'll show the world who you really are.
Luna then takes into account what this guy says here, and then proceeds to then showcase her truthful identity as a hellhound, which again, then big shocker, not like anyone saw this coming from a mile away, the guy gets rightfully shocked and tries to escape Luna, which then leads to a corny scene of this dude screaming for his life, with Luna then accidentally proceeding to shoot this guy in every single body except for the upper body and head, with it then leading to Blitzo then of course coming in and finishing the blow by taking a brick and then brutally bashing this guy's head in, and thus, not surprisingly, turning the initially supposed quick and painless death into a wow, big shocker, brutal and painful final moments alive. And of course, with that concluding on the episode, let's just get into my final thoughts real quick.
Game over.
Ultimately, when it comes to my final thoughts for this short, there's not much I've already repeated previously. Again, the majority of this short, besides the evident Blitzo hypocrisy and lack of consistency and evident moral conviction, is him essentially flip-flopping on who to let off alive and who to kill, which again is basically evidently based upon his own personal agenda and who he deems relatable and also valid towards his own experiences, which again is why every single person who's not homosexual, he has expressed little to no remorse in killing, even when they're defenseless, injured, or when the thing you did was as a teenager and a minor, even when the thing you did wasn't your fault and was something that you were just a third party to, as a result of someone else's horrible actions. If you are not homosexual, he will not spare you and not acknowledge the possible change you may have made. And also not realize, wait, the reasonings and demands for requesting this specific person be killed are out of line here. They're ridiculous. No, he doesn't do that. Blitzo ultimately flip-flops depending on who the person is and their personal characteristics, and if they're relatable or not, because he will acknowledge that an infidel cheater who stripped a woman of seeing her kids on Christmas time of all days, a holiday meant for unity and familial bond, but won't kill him because he realizes how emotionally attached other family members are towards him, as well as excuse it as being long ago, but then on the other hand show absolutely no emotion and no sense of decency towards a man who quite literally had to tell other relatives of his that today was his last day alive and it would be his last moments and last time they were hearing from him. He shows no sense of emotion, no sense of moral conviction for something that the guy didn't even deserve to be killed for, simply back in high school, which again, much like Emberlyn, felt no remorse and gloated and enjoyed killing someone for something that they did as a minor, which again, seems to be a repeated trend where if you're someone that Blitzo is cool with or can relate to, he will let you off, but if you're someone he doesn't personally have an agenda or agreeable notion with, he will chastise you, he will try to come after you, and he will enjoy and get upset at not being able to earlier kill you for stupid things they did as a minor that occurred years ago. This episode helps reveal how truly performative and how biased he is when it comes to this. The rest of the episode isn't at all special. They essentially just took themes from other vastly more successful pieces of media and still managed to fumble it by not understanding the context and nuance as to why those themes within those other medias worked so well. To further add on to the ending scenes of essentially Luna revealing herself and the guy getting freaked out was so predictable, and again, as well as the guy essentially having a brutal last moment alive was also something you could see from a mile away. Again, it was a lame bait and switch that basically did nothing to help progress the story productively and wasn't at all funny. So again, a simple way that this could have been fixed would have been Luna, after revealing her true identity, the guy could have been like appreciative and been like, whoa, that's your true persona, persona, and then Luna then accidentally pulling the trigger on her gun, then causing the guy to fall over in agony and pain, which then causes him to fall back and aggressively try to fight back against Luna, thus causing her gun to then fire more rounds by accident, and as a result of her being sanded, the scene then have Blitzo come in for the final kill to help the distraught Luna, which again would have worked way better because then it would have at least could have been like, oh, the irony. Turns out the thing that actually killed him was not due to him freaking out by Luna's transformation, but instead Luna's accidental incompetence, which again would have worked way better. But anyways, that aside, to close it off, I find it so ironic that Luna has her human form plastered on the thumbnail of this short, but for some reason, the writers have not put in a scene where Blitzo for some reason doesn't create a human disguise or a human persona of his own avatar. Like, this is ridiculous. He's acknowledged the importance of having this human disguise repeatedly and asked other people to help give it to him in order for him to better his missions.
How the fuck did you get caught by humans? Are you little creatures not being careful up here? You know, if you get in trouble, I get in trouble. We don't want that.
If we're gonna do this the old-fashioned way, we're gonna need disguises. No chance you can conjure us a couple of those, can you?
So again, it's just ridiculous that they haven't done it by now. Like again, why are you guys not doing that? It's such a simple thing to include that not only helps diversify all the main characters by giving them another humanified persona that y'all can create, but also use for monetary and personal gain, as you can make humanified stickers and merch off of that too. Again, it's just a ridiculous thing that can simply be added, fixed, and further add to the story and give fans more character edits to play around, such as artwork and all those other things to help extensify the fandom hype and fandom lore and fandom art of the series. It's just ridiculous. Why are you guys not giving him a humanified persona and the other impactful characters too? It's such a simple thing to add in that is so beneficiary in long term for y'all's cartoon and branding. But anyways, that set aside, that's gonna conclude this short review. Thank y'all so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below. Share this video around, but that set aside, thank y'all so much. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.